Hi, welcome to week 10 of Discipleship Equip. Yeah, we're a third of the way through DSE, a disciple making experience, and we're learning how to be disciples who make disciples of Jesus Christ. This week we're looking at what Jim Putnam refers to as the three keys to disciple making: a reproducible process, a relational environment, and an intentional leader. And I don't know if you've encountered these before in such a way as Jim presents them, but when you think about it, these three principles are everywhere. I think about growing up on the farm and how I was in a relationship with my dad and my grandpa. They were the two primary people, my men, who helped me to understand what it meant and what it required to be a farmer. They would create the relational dynamic, the relational environment, and they would show me what to do. They were the intentional leaders. And then it wasn't just me, though, who learned. It was also my brother and to some degree my sisters who learned how to farm and how to be farmers. And then a little known fact that I'm not terribly proud of, a little sheepish to admit, but nonetheless it's true. I've spent 10 years in higher education. 4 years as an undergrad, 2 years in graduate school, and then 4 years in seminary. My dad says, "What are you going to do with all that education?" But I look back at those 10 years, and in each of those three situations, there were intentional leaders, especially in undergrad and obviously at seminary, wonderful godly people, instructors, professors who created oftentimes a relational environment. And universities by nature, hopefully, are a reproducible process where year after year, class after class of students come in to learn whatever it is they're seeking to learn. In my case, it was agricultural background and agricultural finance. And then in seminary, year after year, a crop of prospective missionaries or pastors or Bible teachers were coming in and were being trained in a relational environment with intentional leadership through a reproducible process. And so these three key elements aren't something Jim Putnam just thought up on his own. He just identified what already was taking place and say, hey, if we're going to be effective disciple makers, then we need to make sure that we're including all three of these essential components. And we see that this is exactly how Jesus did it. Reading from Luke chapter 6, verse 12. One of those days Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray, and he spent time that night praying to God. When morning came, he called his disciples to him and chose 12 of them, whom he also designated apostles. Then he goes on to name all 12. Then in verse 17, he went down with them and stood on a level place. So we see there that Jesus is beginning to recreate what he had always known, and that was a relational environment. The Father, the Son, and the Spirit have always coexisted together in this amazing relationship, which we refer to as the Trinity. Jesus gave up that Trinity for 3 days in order that we might enjoy it forever. The 3 days that he was separated from the Father and from the Spirit. And so we see that that relational environment is what he is seeking to bring us and to draw us into so that we might be with him and one another forevermore. How did he do that? Through an intentional leadership initiative. As he went and he hand-selected those 12. And then a reproducible process. He placed them into a small group so that we might see that that is one of the best ways, and I would say an essential way, to learn how to be a disciple who makes disciples is by being in relationship and fellowship with other disciples. And we see Jesus setting the model for this. And so we see that these three keys to making disciples God's way, which are a reproducible process, a relational environment, and intentional leadership, are everywhere. They're just a part of what it means to be effective in leadership, in coming up with people who can take on vocations and opportunities in your workplace. They're probably utilizing a lot of these three components as they effectively go about the business of whatever it might be that they're doing there in your workplace. So just remember, as we look here to the month of December, to keep in mind ways that you want to invite people from your Bless My Five list into your life, whether it's into your home or whatever else you might want to do with them that month. Just a great way to connect and to intentionally begin to continue to build those relationships with the folks on your Bless My Five list. And then also continue to think and pray about whatever it is that you've selected from the spiritual health assessment to help you grow as a follower of Jesus Christ. And also, if any of you have any questions or any things that you would like me to include in these brief teaching times that we have each week, please contact me by email, by phone, and let me know what those might be, and I'll be glad to include or address whatever questions or situations that you might like to bring up that we could talk about further. So have a great week, and we'll see you soon.